Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to today's stream. My name is Elliot. I'm, of course, the host, and I'm sure you'll recognize me, but thank you very much for everybody who's joined here today in the chat. Thanks ever so much to, I'm not going to pronounce this correctly, so apologies in advance, Yala Horn Overwatch. Thanks for the sub. I really appreciate it. It's all going to a good cause, but we haven't decided which cause yet. And welcome everybody else. Jack Scott, Rinked, hi guys. Spyron's in the chat as well. So yeah, welcome everybody. We've got some really cool stuff coming up today. It's a production stream, which is basically doing all this kind of stuff for the streams, which I'm obviously doing for the British Esports Association, but my guest today does it for the NUEL. Just before we get into that, I just want to give you a little bit of an update about what we've got going on this week. We're actually taking a day off on Wednesday, so there's going to be no stream on Wednesday, but we will be back on Friday with a show match, which should be really, really good. That's going to be the British Esports team, including our like our actual workers behind the scenes playing versus the NUEL as well. That's going to be shoutcasted and hosted as well, so it should be a really, really good event. So that'll be taking place on Friday at 4 p.m. At Metric TV. Thanks ever so much for the follow. Welcome to the stream. At Balint K as well, thank you very much for joining us today. So without further ado, let me introduce you to our guest today. I have Natacha Jones here with me from the NUEL. Welcome, Natacha. How are you doing?
Hey, I'm doing good, thanks. And you?
Yeah, I'm doing very well. So just before we go into it, thanks very much for all the follows, everybody. Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, what your job role is at the NUEL, and what you do?
Yeah, so I'm creative director at the NUEL. I take care of kind of like the brand strategy, the broadcasts. I do a bunch of technical stuff as well as the creative kind of things. I look after all of the productions that we do for the NUEL. So I have a big team of contractors and freelancers who help us make all of the NUEL productions. And I'm also a freelance esports producer. So I work with a bunch of people like Belong and work at Insomnia and things like that.
Awesome. And of course, you used to work with us here at the British Esports Association as well. So,
yep.
you know, thanks very much for all the good things you did for us and still do for us. And, you know, really, really happy to have you on the stream today. So if you guys don't know, the plan today is for basically Natacha to just show us a little bit about the kind of setups that she organises and she runs for different tournaments, different events, and kind of just give you a brief overview of how those events operate from a production perspective. And to do that, I think we're just going to do it from spectator mode. So you'll be seeing her screen, and she'll demonstrate kind of the things that she does. And in the meantime, we'll just ask a couple of questions just to find out a little bit more about the day-to-day activities and how she tackles difficult obstacles on the job. So thanks ever so much again. Let's get into it. I'll switch over to screen share now, and fingers crossed it should all work. Look at that, my production skills are somewhat working. So hopefully you can all see that. this is Teamfight Tactics I'm looking at the moment. So could you
Yep.
tell us a little bit about which this is, what it does, and how it works?
Yeah. So this is our Teamfight Tactics stream package essentially for the NUEL. So we ran a pilot tournament in summer, then we did it again in winter, and then this is our spring tournament broadcast package. So this was a bit of a complicated one. As you can see down the left, there's POVs from player 1 to player 8. This is because Teamfight Tactics doesn't have a spectate mode. So we had to come up with some creative solutions for how to stream this.
Interesting. So which software is this, first of all?
So this is in OBS, sorry. Yeah.
Okay, this is the standard OBS, not Streamlabs OBS or anything like that. It's just the blanket package they give you, right?
Yeah. So this is just straight up usual OBS Studio.
Nice.
Um,
Is that your preferred software?
For doing remote things and for the NUEL, I prefer to use OBS. Yeah. It's kind of better for the kind of stuff that we do at the NUEL. So we focus a lot on talent development and skills development and stuff like that, and like bringing in students who perhaps haven't streamed that much before and sort of getting them used to streaming setups. And we find that OBS is the best one for that. And then they can go on to do more complicated things in vMix and with live event productions and stuff. But something that's quite simple and open source and has a bunch of different plugins, like OBS, is perfect for what we do.
Okay, perfect. So, I mean, is there any difference, do you think, between the kind of major softwares, or are they all doing the same thing just with slightly different UIs? How does it work?
So OBS and Streamlabs OBS are basically doing the same thing, except Streamlabs just looks a bit prettier. It has fewer features than the standard OBS Studio, but it's good for people. It's good for Twitch streamers, so like individual people that want to stream. Streamlabs OBS is great for that. It's less great for tournament productions like this and things that require a lot of weird plugins.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Yeah.
I mean, do you find then that you need the versatility when you're doing a live production, because the Streamlabs OBS just isn't quite designed for, mass production, or is it, it's more unique, is basically what you're saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Streamlabs it's really great for individual streamers. And if someone were to ask me as a Twitch streamer what software they should be using to stream to Twitch, I would say Streamlabs OBS, just because not only does it look better, it's got a more intuitive UI as well.
Okay.
And then,
so you don't recommend that then for beginners who are getting started?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you want to go into like tournament production and stuff like that, in which case I'd recommend OBS to begin with. But there's also vMix to consider as well, which is what I would prefer for studio and live event work.
Okay. So let's go back to this this thing that you're showing us here with all the different player point of views. How does this work?
So, as I said before, the unique challenge of TFT, and also Runeterra and Magic the Gathering, is that there isn't
card games.
Yeah. There isn't any spectate mode. So there's two options of what you can do, really. You can either only allow people to participate in the tournament if they have the capacity to stream, which puts a massive barrier to entry on the tournament, which you kind of want to avoid, because you're working with students and not everyone has great internet and not everyone has a good enough computer to stream. So that was kind of off the table to begin with. So our other option was to set up a bunch of virtual machines with the games on them and identify a group of players or teams who are happy to play on these virtual machines, and then we capture the game feed from the virtual machines and we send that all 8 of them in the case of TFT. And we send that to the producer, who then switches between the different perspectives.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense actually, because of course, playing, Magic the Gathering, Teamfight Tactics, they're not exactly high processing power games either. You don't actually need very much to run them at all. So to kind of expect people to then have the same power to do streaming at the same time, you're asking for something really impossible. So that's actually a really
Yeah.
smart way of getting around it. Is it complicated to set up a bunch of 8 virtual machines, or is it now it's done? Was it like a one-time thing, or do you have to do it every time you do a tournament, or how does that work?
So we tend to reuse the virtual machines. So the ones that we used for Teamfight Tactics and Runeterra, we also used for Magic the Gathering. So Magic the Gathering was the first time we came across this, because we ran the tournament in winter, and Wizards were like, "Oh yeah, so you guys going to stream it?" Yeah, and we said, "Yeah, sure, we'll stream it." And then we discovered that it had no spectate mode. So it was difficult to set up the first one because we weren't really sure what we were doing and what requirements the virtual machine had to have. But we have a really good engineering team at the NUEL, Tom and Michael especially, are really good at stuff like this. And Michael's a fan of Magic the Gathering anyway, so it was like a fun project for him. So they set up all these virtual machines and then they just cloned them 8 times or 7 times.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
big shout to, was it Michael and Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah, big shout out to them then at the NUEL. Thanks guys for being so awesome. I'm a fan of Magic the Gathering as well, but I've never played the online version. I've only had the original cards, back when I was a nerdy teenager. I still have them somewhere actually.
Yeah.
But I've moved houses a few times since then, so you never know whether they're still there or not.
My parents sold all of mine.
They sold them all
Yeah.
with your permission, or?
No.
Oh no! Did they at least get good money for them? Because some of them
I
are
hope
quite
so.
rare.
It was years ago now.
Fair enough.
Me and my brothers had the great big crate of them, and my parents sold them.
Oh, such a shame. Oh dear. Okay, so I mean, obviously this is a full setup. Like you've already established this entire layout. The UI looks really good. Like what would you, what kind of issues did you run into when you were setting this up, or was it fairly smooth?
It was quite straightforward for TFT. So the guy who designed our Teamfight Tactics and Runeterra overlays was Patrick. Patrick is really good at, because he's worked with a bunch of different programs, and I work with him at Insomnia as well. So he really understands the challenges that we're going to come across. So he builds the packages with that in mind. And it saves me a lot of time because putting together dozens of stream packages takes a long time. And then zipping them up and uploading them takes even more time.
So I mean, is this the Runeterra one on the left here then that I can see?
Yes.
Yeah. It looks really nice. It's so pretty with the effects you've got going over it as well. The overlays look fantastic.
Yeah, so we like to put just like nice particles in the background, so that it's not just like a flat PNG. It's nice to have some kind of depth to it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it just looks kind of boring.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. Definitely don't have a flat PNG background right now on the stream.
That's different though, because when stuff is moving on the screen, like that's fine. But if this didn't have a moving background, for example, this end of stream scene, if it didn't have a moving background, it would literally just be a PNG with nothing else moving on it.
Yeah, gotcha.
But when you've got like the game, or you've got someone else's screen share like you've got right now, that's dynamic in itself.
Definitely. So what are the common issues that people run into then when they're starting to learn, how to do a stream, how to produce stuff? What kind of things did you experience when you were learning all this, and how did you overcome them?
The biggest issue that I had was being confident enough to kind of wing it when things went wrong. A lot of it comes down to understanding the ways that OBS can break on you, or whatever software you're using. Understanding the pitfalls and having experience of those pitfalls so that you can predict them, and so that you know when they're coming up.
Yeah, I mean, confidence is obviously a massive thing because you're putting yourself out there on behalf of an organization, or even if it's just for yourself, aren't you? You're putting yourself out there, and if you make a mistake, then everybody can see it. It's not exactly something you can hide easily. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, I definitely agree, and I've only been doing this for a few months, since we started in lockdown, really, and I've definitely felt that confidence has played a huge part for me, and I feel a lot more confident doing it now if something goes wrong. But yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. So, I mean,
Yeah.
how did you get past that barrier yourself? Just by experiencing, plenty of things are going wrong, or did you put yourself in practice situations where, you intentionally created a situation where it would, be wrong, and then you had to kind of fix it quickly, or how did you kind of overcome that barrier?
Sometimes I break things on purpose, but most of the time it's just having things go wrong in the past, and then someone, even when things went wrong, someone then saying after the stream like, "Oh, that was really good. Like, I really enjoyed that stream." And you're like, "Oh, you didn't even notice when I made this massive mistake?" And they're like, "No, literally didn't notice." And that kind of, because you learn from the experience how not to deal with it or how to deal with it, but then also having someone reinforce the idea that making a small mistake actually doesn't affect the rest of the stream that much, that helps your confidence as well. Because
Yeah,
you know that it's not the end of the world if you make a mistake, even if
definitely,
Twitch chat thinks it is.
definitely. Have you ever made a huge mistake and gotten away with it?
Yeah.
I mean,
Um,
I'm not going to go and look through all your past videos ever, but if you want to tell us what it was or what happened, that'd be awesome.
yeah, it was either Overwatch Contenders China or Trials or Open Division or something. It was something to do with Overwatch Path to Pro. And I was streaming for Broadcast GG. And the stream ended and everyone finished and we were all like ready to go and everything. It'd been a really long day and we'd started at like 7 a.m. and
Yeah.
it was now like 2 p.m. So like I finished the stream, I muted everyone, I sent it to the like now ended thanks for watching scene
Yeah.
and started talking with all the casters and the analysts in Discord. And then I look at Discord and it says like that the channel is still being streamed to, and I was like, oh god. And I look, and I just somehow managed to switch it from the thanks for watching screen to the analyst scene, so it has like the 3 webcams of everyone, and everyone's just like chilling and talking and like
Oh no.
quite visibly swearing about
Oh
things.
no.
And I was like, oh god. I cut the stream, but it was up for like 10 minutes. Like there was no way I was hiding that.
Oh damn. Ten
But
minutes
it,
as well. That's
yeah.
not even like a quick 10 seconds. Damn. How did
No,
you
it
get
was
away
there
with
for a
it then?
really long time. It was just like
People just take it
people,
lightly, I suppose.
yeah, they're just like, oh, whatever. Like, we made it through a really long stream and it was really early in the morning. And I'm not even sure that many people were watching at that point. So it was just kind of funny.
Yeah, I suppose you've got to have that kind of attitude where you can laugh it off, otherwise you'll just get cramped down with the pressure and, the stress.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh, well, that sounds very lucky. I mean, I haven't had anything like that before. I think the worst one I had, I ended up, someone disconnected on one of my streams, and I ended up having to change their camera locations around to match their names because when they rejoined, it switched their
Oh, yeah.
positions. And I did it in about, I don't know, 30 seconds, and I don't think many people noticed, so I'm pretty much sure I got away with that. Nobody said anything, so but yeah, definitely an experience that made me feel good about it afterwards. When I come back to my team and I'm like, "How's the stream?" and they were like, "Yeah, perfect," and I was like, "Sweet, no one noticed. Got away with that."
Yeah.
So, I mean, you've taken it on as like your full career now. Obviously, when you were working with British Esports last year, it was under a completely different capacity, and you've kind of gone down the production route as your kind of chosen career path, at least for the time being, anyway. So I mean, like, what kind of advice would you give to people who are looking to do that on full time basis for an org like the NUEL, or anybody who's running streams on a regular basis?
My advice would be to put yourself together a show reel. So try and produce as many things as you can, even if it's just your own streams. and put together a show reel and have it ready and have it on hand, so that if you see on Twitter someone says looking for an emergency producer tonight, you can DM them and you can say, this is who I am, this is the stuff that I've done, and here's a show reel of the stuff that I've done.
Yes, good advice.
Yeah.
Get prepared with a little portfolio. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of you could apply that to a lot of different industries, can't you? I suppose, but actually, it's probably something you don't think about when you're streaming because it's all live. So it's like,
Yeah.
why would you go back and clip it all together? I suppose that is actually something that's worth doing. Yeah, good idea.
Yeah. It's difficult when people apply to be a producer or observer for the NUEL, and we ask them for a show reel. They'll often send like a 6-hour long VOD, and it's like that doesn't show us like the best side of you.
Yeah.
It shows us like everything, but we need to know like what you think is the best and what represents you the best as a producer or as an observer. And having a show reel that's like maybe like 2 or 3 minutes long really helps highlight what kind of person you are and what skills you have.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's a really good idea. So tell me a little bit more about the scenes that you're going to show us today, because I'm conscious we've just done a lot of talking and you haven't done much showing us much of what you've got here.
Yeah. So I figured I'd show the Magic the Gathering one, because it's kind of related to what you said before about sometimes it can be difficult to set up the scenes and it can be difficult to show the game the way that you want. So initially we started out our Magic the Gathering stream with this as our in-game overlay. So there's a panel on the left where we have our tournament logo, the University Society logos, sponsor logos. This bar here is what separates the two player perspectives.
Uh-huh.
Because there isn't spectate, we have to have the perspective and the whole board of one player, and then the other player's hand turned upside down on the top bit of the screen. So that's what this little panel up here is for.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of difficult to demonstrate without the game being open, though,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine it though. That makes sense. And then presumably when it's not their turn, you swap them round?
So we generally try and stick with the same player on the bottom throughout the stream, or throughout the series, and the same player who on the top deck. But something that we didn't consider until maybe halfway through the season is that there's a phase at the beginning of the game where you like mulligan, which is where you like, I don't know if you can probably describe it better than I can.
Well, I mean, mulligan is when you don't like your hand, so you can redraw. In Magic, you start with a hand of what, 7 is it, and then you can redraw 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it gives each of the players a chance to mulligan before the game starts. So we realized we needed to be able to show that on stream, but our main overlay wouldn't let us because it was only showing us the hand of one player but the whole screen of the other player. So we needed to make this mulligan overlay so that we could see both of the starting decks for both of the players.
Yeah.
So that was something that we had to mock up quite quickly. And then we also encountered the issue where sometimes we didn't have both players' perspectives. So for whatever reason, like maybe the second player didn't have good enough internet to remote into our virtual machines. So we only had the one perspective. So then we had to make an overlay for just that one perspective.
Okay, interesting. So how do you get around it then? If they both mulliganed, would it show? Did it actually show it when the opponent was mulliganing as well as your player that you're watching, or was it originally just showing the person who was like full screen, as it were?
Yeah, so originally it would only show the one person and their like starting deck and them mulliganing. But when we did it this way, so we set up the feed so that it was cropped to fit both.
Yeah.
so you can see both of the hands.
Okay. Gotcha. So that means then, of course, every time you're playing a new game, you've got to go to a different scene and then switch after the first mulligan opportunity to the other scene, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Rinked in the chat says, is that how Hearthstone is also done, or is that different since it actually has a spectate mode?
Hearthstone is pretty much the same. I don't know if I have the scene set up. No, I don't. For some reason, my scene is called NUEL HS, but it's just magic. Which, yeah, I don't name my scenes very well. But yeah, Hearthstone's pretty much the same, except we don't have to get people to play on virtual machines because it has a spectate mode. So we can just go in and spectate. It looks generally the same though. So there's a big panel, then we have the main hand, and then we have a small little window up at the top where we show the opponent's hand but flipped upside down, because otherwise you have to like crane your neck trying to read what the opponent's hand is.
Yeah. How do you do it flipped upside down?
So that's we put a filter on it essentially, or we transform it to literally just flip it horizontally.
Okay.
And then you just kind of crop it down and position it where you want it.
Okay, cool. So what about if you were doing it live? Like, obviously your whole setup would be completely different. This is for, when people are playing from home or playing from their PCs, they're logging into virtual machines and stuff. How different would this scene look, if it was at a live event?
It probably wouldn't look too much different. We wouldn't have to use the virtual machines, and we also wouldn't have to use the RTMP feeds. So for anyone that isn't familiar, RTMP is just a protocol for sharing video, for like video and audio feeds. And we have a server set up, so essentially the player's perspective is streamed to this RTMP server, and then it's picked up by a producer on the other end, and also by the casters so they can see what's going on. At a live event, though, the people would be there in person, or assuming they'd be there in person anyway. You would literally just be able to capture their screens, so you could just like a HDMI to SDI converter, and then that goes into an Atom or an ATEM or however you want to pronounce it, which is just like a physical mixing desk, and then that's overlaid with a bunch of graphics and stuff in vMix. But if we were to do this live, which we were going to do live, but thanks to COVID we didn't, we would put like little player cameras probably where these society logos are,
Yeah.
just to add like a nice touch.
Like face cams.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was going to be my next question really, would you have included them? I mean, would it be possible to do that from a playing from home perspective, if players of course had webcams and everything?
Yeah, if they had webcams and they could stream, or not even stream, if they could like join OBS Ninja or Skype or something to send us their webcam, then we could do that, yeah. But there's a good chance that their internet would drop, or it would look a bit bad, or maybe only one of them has a webcam. And if only one of them has a webcam, it kind of looks weird if one does and one doesn't.
Yeah. I've just got a couple of questions here then. One from Motorcate. Would the setup be the same between a LAN tournament and an online tournament? Which I think you've more or less answered, to be fair.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wouldn't change too much. Obviously, they just wouldn't use the virtual machines. And then another one from Rob Alexander. Is there anything you find you're doing in lockdown production that works better or is more time conducive that you would carry over into live physical productions? Tough one.
There's nothing I can think of really. Generally, it's the other way around, where there are things that I do in a live or like a studio production that I wish I could take online, but I can't.
Ah, I see. What you mean, just like the simpleness of plugging in cables and having that as the transfer rather than
Yeah.
yeah.
Not having to use the internet.
Yeah.
not relying on players to go on the virtual machines and stuff. Like, I wish they were just there and I could plug a HDMI cable in.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, you got your Hearthstone scenes and your, your card game scenes. Did you have any other scenes that you wanted to show us today?
Yeah. So what I can show is our charity stream overlay.
Oh, wow, that looks fancy.
So this isn't actually fancy. This is just a PNG for if something went horribly wrong.
It does look very BBC.
Yeah, it's just a BBC one. So the only thing that's missing from this is the donation overlay, which did sit in this bottom lower third and basically just said like what donation amount we're at, who the top donator is, stuff like that. But this is a stream package that we put together just for our charity stream, and by we I mean Patrick put it together because Patrick's great. He also did all of the coding for this donation overlay.
Sounds
So
very
yeah,
talented.
yeah. So this little speedrun overlay we put together just has this small little 16:9 window so that you can get the game feed, which we were taking through RTMP again. Some information here. The donation overlay went down here in this corner. And then we had a little timer up here to time the speed runs. We didn't actually do that many speed runs in the end.
What were you speed running?
We managed to only do GTA 5. We had planned to do a bunch more, but then it just didn't really happen. It's really difficult, it turns out, to do speed running remotely.
Right.
And it just would have been so much easier if we could do it like Games Done Quick, if we could just do it in a big hall in person, and like one person could do their speed run on the computer, then they could just get off the computer and the next person gets on. That would have been so much simpler. And instead we had to be like, okay, everyone who wants to speed run also has to be able to stream to this RTMP server and we'll pick it up. And it was a whole thing. Turns out it's a bit difficult to do that remotely.
So, I mean, that was only the speedrun aspect though of your 24-hour stream. Like, what you had loads of other things going on, right?
Yeah, so we had a bunch of different videos. We had a Red Cross video that played. So that was an interview. There was a British Esports panel about the BTEC, which we ran. We had some of our student streamer network on as well. So we had Lena and we had Hollywell. We had Sir Salty, we had Organised TV, we had Crumsy. So they had little segments throughout where they streamed to our channel. We had some more interviews that were live instead of recorded. We had an Overwatch show match. So that's what this overlay is. It's just like really simple, really clean.
Yeah, it looks nice. It's weird looking at overlays when you haven't got the game behind. Do you know what I mean? Like, in your head, you know it looks nice because you know what the game looks like and you've seen the overlay before and you're like, oh, it is clean. And actually, that's what you need, like something just fresh and clean. But when you look at it without a background, it's you kind of question yourself a little bit about, oh, it looks a bit weird. Couple of questions just coming in the chat. Rob Alexander with a slight follow-up from my last question. Because the proof is now that the streaming tournaments from home has been proven to work well, do you envision the possibility for a wider range of tournament possibilities due to less financial input, i.e. smaller organisations, games, more frequent tournaments?
Potentially.
I mean, I guess I can jump in on that one as well because it's kind of part of what I do. I think the the ability to do it is there, and the fact that people have been doing it kind of on their own because they were forced to because they couldn't go to live events has definitely opened eyes. As far as will it actually become? I don't think it will because people love a live event, and it's one of the coolest things about the industry is getting to go to the LANs and playing with friends and meeting new people and stuff like that. So I think we are going to strive. I know I will. I'll strive to attend live events where as and where possible. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd love to do more tournaments and play more things. On a kind of cheaper reason, but I think that most people in the esports industry are just looking forward to getting back to live LAN events, you know. And then another one I've just missed as well, from Multi21 UK. Do you or have you used any live score stat tracking software to update overlays? If so, which have you used with any success? So I'm guessing that means like, you know, if you're doing like a best of 5 or something, you've got, and it's 2-1 to one team, and you've got like, oh, so and so's got X by kills, X headshots. You know, have you got any of those? Have you got any of those overlays set up, or do you use any software that does that for you?
We haven't got any stats kind of things, except for Teamfight Tactics. So this one has a post game breakdown which Patrick set up, which pulls from it pulls information from the league API, and then populates it in this overlay. So then it gives the caster something nice to talk about when the game is finished. We have similar things for Rainbow Six Siege, except it isn't populated. It has to be populated by hand on a big spreadsheet, and I think it's the same with CS:GO as well.
Okay.
It's quite difficult to do, from what I understand.
How many games do you have? You know, I mean, I know you're only demonstrating a few today, but like, how many setup scenes do you have for however many different games?
A lot.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have to count them all. Like, just ballpark it for me, roughly 20, 30.
Yeah. Maybe like 15.
Okay. I mean, that's still a lot, you know.
Yeah, maybe like 15 with a bunch of kind of archived that we don't use anymore.
Yeah, but just there in case you ever need them again. Yeah.
Yeah, like we set up tech and overlays and stuff, which I don't know if we'll ever use again.
Gotcha. Don't worry, everybody. If you want to ask questions, that's totally fine. Please do in the chat. I'll try and answer them as best I can, or I'll ask Tasha as well, and hopefully we'll get an answer to you. But yeah, don't feel bad for asking questions. We'll have a Q&A as well at the end if we have time. So if you do have any questions that you feel I haven't answered or I've missed in the chat, we can ask them later. So just going back to the live events, I've got a question for you. So what sort of team do you need then to like properly execute a live tournament or a live show match? Like, how many people do you need? How many producers? How many technicians? Like, how does it work? I've never done it, so I don't know.
It depends on like the scale of the event and also what your budget is.
Yeah.
So the esports stage at Insomnia has a relatively large team. So we have like 2 stage or floor managers. There's graphics, which is Patrick. Then we have 1 or 2 observers, which are kind of part of the production team. We have a technical director, which is Alex. We have the producer, who kind of keeps the show ticking along and show calls, and helps everyone know what stage we're at, what's coming next, what graphics to prepare. And then we have 2 kind of technical dudes who, when something goes horribly wrong, they know where all the wires are and what should be plugged in where. We have 1 or 2 audio people, and someone also looking after the lights.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean.
Yeah, that's quite a big team. But then, when the NUEL originally planned to have their stage at Insomnia, we were going to have a stage in the expo, and we planned it all out and everything. That was only a team of maybe 4 people. So that was like producer, director, like as one, a graphics operator, who was also the VT operator. Oh yeah, that's who I missed out. I missed out Sean. So on the esports stage, sorry, we have VT and graphics, but then we also have a replay operator, which is what Sean does. So the NUEL team was effectively half of what was on the esports stage, because you can combine some of the roles and still kind of get away with it.
So I suppose the replay officer is kind of a difficult job because you've got to be like on the ball, haven't you, and really really quick, I suppose.
Yeah, like I can't do it. It's really difficult. You have like a lot of replay operators have this weird little wheel thing that they use so that they can scrub back the footage and like scrub it forwards again. And it's really fun to watch them do it, but you have to have like a lot of game knowledge to be able to do it because you have to know what actually looks good. You have to be looking out for really cool plays that happen so that you can rewind it, get it ready, and then tell the director or the producer that you've got a replay ready.
Yeah, I suppose you've got to know the game inside out as well. You know, if something great happens and you don't know it, then you're just going to miss it completely and probably end up replaying the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Cool. So did you want to show us another scene, or shall we move on to some more questions?
I can probably take some more questions. I think I've covered
Okay.
most of the scenes.
Cool. I mean, so sticking on that live event production, and I know we kind of covered it earlier on when I asked you, you know, what were your issues when you were learning, but like when you're live, obviously the pressure is kind of doubled and stuff, and or tripled, however much pressure you're under. Do you have kind of any fail safes for dealing with that? If you get it wrong live on stage or when you've got a live audience in front of you, have you got like a backup producer who save you if something does go wrong, or do you just have to really wing it and hope that you don't collapse under the weight of it all?
You kind of just have to put faith in yourself and faith in the rest of your team as well. If something goes horribly wrong, like for instance, the internet goes down in the entire venue when you're doing like a stage show, that's a problem that's out of your control, and it's hard to get it back in your control. So you just have to have faith that your tech people are going to do the best that they can to get it back online. You have to have faith that the networking people are going to be able to get it back online, that the maintenance and facilities people are going to do their best.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, like if it was something that you were doing wrong personally, or something that you'd done incorrectly, whether it was a transition or whether like for instance, I produced the Rocket League showdown that we did not too long ago, and I ended up having all of the casters. Well, I had the host was fine, and I had two casters as well, and I had them both muted for about 4 minutes. Because I was having some real trouble with audio channels, which is actually a question I'll probably come to in a minute. But I had nobody sitting next to me to go, "Oh, this is what you've done wrong." And I had literally I've got casters on the screen getting bits of paper on the cameras, writing up "sorry," and holding it up to the camera. It was a right disaster for me. Thankfully, I got it sorted in a reasonable amount of time, but I mean, definitely the pressure that I felt during that moment was quite significant. It was like, oh my God, I don't know what the problem is. I can't fix it. I have to fix it. Otherwise, this is a complete disaster. Like, so I mean, that pressure, like, do you have, because you've been doing it for a lot longer than I have, and you've experienced that on a live stage, which I've never done. So I mean, do you have any fail safes for that critical moment where everything just hits the fan and you don't know what to do?
Just hearing that story makes me feel really anxious. I don't really know about fail safes, to be honest, but when it's in person and there's a lot of people around you and you mess up real bad, then like everyone wants to tell you how badly you messed up, even though you're aware of it, and you just have to really try and stay calm. And you have to really not succumb to the pressure, because the worst thing that, when something goes wrong, the worst thing that can happen is you screaming down comms at someone and swearing at them or whatever and getting real mad, because you're trying to fix something and they're trying to tell you how to fix it. So like, that's something that I would really advise against. Like, when you mess something up, just try and stay calm and try and communicate the problem, and don't shout at the people that are trying to help you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, I didn't have anybody to help me, so I had nobody to shout at. But I mean, that's really good advice. I mean, it's definitely not for you got to be a bit brave, I think, to take on a live event or something that's kind of being broadcast to a few hundred people or whatever. There's definitely a fear about it for sure. But yeah,
Scary, yeah.
like I said, I do want to cover audio because it's a pertinent to the story that I just told. Is an issue for me personally, and the way that the audio works when you're on a production level. I can see you've got your mixer there with 3 channels on it, right? But you don't necessarily get that. If you're brand new to streaming, or you're not sure what you're doing, and you haven't got a mixer or kind of extra audio channels, it becomes somewhat difficult to kind of freestyle the audio. It's like you haven't got control over the individual sources, and once you do kind of understand that world behind it and how it works, life becomes a lot easier. But for me, it's been a bit of a difficult road in learning, which audio sources apply to which line, and how do I control that line individually from, say, the game music or whatever. And I've definitely found that a bit of a struggle, and I end up working out like a bodge job of it, which is fine, temporarily. But if I'm, for instance, I was doing I can't remember how long it was now. I think it was about 2 hours, 3 hours long stream, and I've got a headset on, and then I've got a pair of earbuds in as well, which is probably, I don't know if there's a better way of doing it, but I mean, at the moment, that's how I'm doing it. So if I want to listen to multiple audio channels, I have to plug in multiple sets of earbuds, and of course, I've only got 2 ears, so eventually, eventually, I'm going to run out of things to plug in. But I mean, I wonder if you had any advice or any kind of, structure on how you've done it before in the past and things like that.
So I'm definitely not the best person at audio. I'm not going to pretend that I am. Audio is really difficult, and there's not many people I know that actually understand it and how it works, and how to make it work consistently. Because sometimes it just won't work, and there's no reason it won't work. And you can do all the things in the world and still something won't work. But the way that I have it set up is kind of like the simplest way. So I will literally just have desktop audio, and I will control almost all of my sources using the Windows mixer. And then the caster audio will come in through OBS Ninja, which is this thing that came out only like 2 months ago, which is what we're using to screen share right now, which is so much better than Skype and Discord. It's really good, and it gives you individual sources, which Skype kind of does, but it's really bad at it, and Discord doesn't do at all. So when you put in these webcams, for example, you can now mute one person and not mute the other person. It makes it so much easier. You can do similar things with virtual audio mixers. So there's Voice Meter Banana, which a lot of people like. I absolutely hate the program and I can't use it. I just can't make sense of it. Which is why I prefer like the simple method where I just capture all desktop audio. It runs the risk of like maybe there's a video about cats on YouTube playing in the background and that's captured and put on stream, but that's a risk that I'm willing to take.
Nothing wrong with a few cats, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a few comments in chat. Voice Meter Banana is a great tool to have to the side for greater control. From Haribo, audio is so painful.
Yeah.
Which I think we're all on the same wavelength there. Spyron's come in the chat as well. The Wavelink software that comes with the new Elgato mics is good too. I suppose you have to have a fancy Elgato mic though. So yeah, do you know a bit about Wavelink then?
Oh my, I tweeted about this like the day it came out. I'm so upset and it stresses me out so much that I can't get this software without also buying the mic, because the software looks amazing. It's a virtual audio mixer the same way that Voice Meter Banana is, except it looks so much more intuitive, and I really want it, but I don't want to buy a new mic because I spent £200 on this one last year.
How come they're only selling the software with the microphone?
I don't know. I would pay them money for that software.
Yeah, seems like they're missing a trick there then. I haven't heard of it. I guess I'll have to have a look into it because, audio is a pain and there isn't a friendly way of, learning it at the moment.
No, and everyone bodges it. Like, I wouldn't feel guilty about doing a bodge job with audio because everyone does it, even at live events and in studios. Like, I won't go into detail, but the studio that we use for Arena Clash, all the audio is bodged. We have a massive audio mixer with like 30 channels, and we use one. And it's got it's got a PlayStation controller duct tape to it to control the PlayStation audio. It's a whole thing.
Wow, that does sound like it's a personal hobby of someone's somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah, a few more comments. Elgato, give us Wavelink already. You could go through Adobe Encoder and do it that way. I'm not sure if you understand. It doesn't make any sense to me, that one, but maybe that does to you. Yeah, so I think we've covered quite a fair bit. We've got about 10 minutes left on the stream. So if anybody in the chat wants to ask any more questions, now is your chance. I just want to ask a couple more things whilst, but I'll let everybody in the chat have a chance to ask their final questions. Do you have anything to pull in, like real-time viewer interaction, for instance, poll overlays or anything like that? Now, I know Twitch has a fairly decent one that they give you kind of off the bat. But do you guys have any that you've built your own? Do you use any in tournaments? Like, who do you think is going to win, for instance? Do you just use the standard overlays, or do you create your own?
We don't tend to use them at the NUEL. We like to keep it quite simple, I want to say. It is something that I've looked into before, like personally, for the NUEL. But when we do polls and stuff, we tend to just do it in Twitch chat and then let people vote in Twitch chat, and then the casters will talk about it.
Yeah, fair enough. It's clean and crisp, works nicely. Like, especially if it ain't broke, why change it? So cool. All right, so I guess that's similar to what the stats and graphics and overlays I mentioned earlier as well. Do you pull any of those up? I guess we kind of already discussed it, and you kind of said you didn't really do it so much. Do you know any like softwares that would automatically generate that? For instance, calculating headshots or anything like that. Are they free, or do you pay for them? Do you even know if they exist?
I'm not really sure. I'm sure someone in Twitch chat will be able to name some.
Yeah, I'm sure somebody somewhere has written a program for it, no doubt.
Yeah. One comes to mind, but I can't remember what it's called.
Reed has chimed in. For CS, you can use Pop Flash, I think. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah, I've heard of it, but I didn't know they did like statsy kind of things.
Okay. Sorry, yet another question from Rob Alexander. Would it ever be possible to stream the production side of some tournaments? It would be great to see the working behind the scenes. Well, I know for a fact that you can go and get some behind the scenes. It's not like a streamed screen capture, but there's like a cameraman there filming for a few events. I think ESL did it last year or the year before.
Yeah.
So there's like somebody there filming the production team as they're doing the producing. So, and you can find that video somewhere. I'm not sure exactly where. Do you guys film yourselves at all, or record any of the sessions that you do at the NUEL, or do you just kind of get on with it and hope it goes well?
I don't think we've ever recorded it. I think because we don't know whether it'll actually be useful, because a lot of it will just be sitting around for an hour while a game happens. But when it's like an actual physical event, it could be quite exciting to see everyone pressing all the buttons and stuff.
Yeah.
I think I remember seeing, it might have been Sam Deans did like a time lapse of a production that he did, where he set up like a GoPro behind him in the gallery, in the production gallery. And because it was a time lapse, it wasn't like 4 hours long.
Yeah.
And that was quite fun to watch.
But I think that's a really good idea, especially for like when you're looking to improve your production skills or your time management, or even just look to see where something went wrong and why it went wrong. If you've got that kind of self-analysis behind you. Cool. So a few more questions. Odd question. I see your name has Sunkern in it. Is that your favorite Pokemon? What is your top 3 fave?
Oh.
That's from Rob Alexander.
Yes. Sunkern is my favorite because it's got the worst stats, but it's really cute. It has worse stats than Magikarp, which is saying a lot. My other two favorites are probably, oh, I don't know. One of them is Mew. I have a tattoo of Mew.
Nice.
And the other one is Gengar, who I also have a tattoo of.
Nice, very nice. So Gengar, Mew, and Sunkern, excellent. Spyron, did you say that a showreel was the best way to get your foot in the door? Yeah, I think we agreed earlier on in the stream that that was like something that you should definitely do. You know, back yourself up with some proper evidence and some look. If you needed some like an emergency producer tonight, this is me. This is what I can do. Have a look at it and ready to go.
Yeah.
Haribo says, don't get me on the production side, you'll just hear me being amazed at all the plays happening, lol. He also says, Valorant is slowly bringing out API. We're working on integrating it for UKV, but it's going to be a slow process. That's cool. I did not know that.
I think I saw something about that. I think I saw someone working on some graphics that would use the Valorant API in like real time to get stuff that showed up, to show like stats. I don't know who it was that was working on it. It might have been Phil. Haribo knows who Phil is.
Okay, yeah. Cool. That Sunkern morning in the Power Park was cool. I have no idea what that reference is to, but maybe you do.
I have no idea either.
Okay. Spyron says, would you recommend any equipment for production? I know Stream Deck is good for some things, but can you go into it with pretty minimalistic equipment? I mean, I'm using just my normal, my PC is pretty decent, my normal rig, but you don't need a Stream Deck. You can get apps on your phone to do a similar thing, and you don't technically need one, but it does make life easier. Do you use a Stream Deck at the NUEL, Natasha?
Yeah, I think all of our producers use Stream Decks, and if they don't, then they use like what are they called, like macro keys?
Yep.
I can't remember if there's a better word for them. But you can also use them if you don't have a Stream Deck, or BitFocus Companion is this really great open source tool that's on the internet. So you can just Google BitFocus Companion, and you can set up like a little emulator of a Stream Deck, and you can link it up with like OBS, vMix, your Atom, all your cameras, like your lights. You can link everything together with BitFocus Companion, and on the touch of a button, you can control like multiple different things going off all at once.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's a really useful tool.
Yeah, I think I was going to say this as well, but somebody in chat has also mentioned it. I wouldn't recommend buying anything at the moment for streaming, as the prices are ramped up due to lockdown demand. Like, it's been so difficult to get anything, whether it's a microphone, a camera, a Stream Deck, everything is just bonkers expensive and or out of stock at the minute. So yeah, I also wouldn't recommend it for now. But obviously it's something that everybody wants to do right now, because what else can we do? So
yeah, like the C920, which is the like industry standard webcam. I got mine for like £23 on Prime Day, like a couple of years ago, and now they're selling for like £120. It's ridiculous.
Outrageous. Yeah, it's bonkers. Cool. Well, I think we're more or less about there. So I think I'll just, have you got any other messages you want to shout out, Tasha, to the stream, to the chat? Hello?
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I think shout out to Martin, who works with Belong. He's kind of been like a mentor for me and taught me a lot about studio and stage broadcast, and given me a lot of opportunities to mess up streams real bad, and then he's just been really patient with me, and I've learnt loads from him.
Brilliant. Well, shout out to Martin. Thank you very much. And thank you as well to yourself, Natasha. Thank you for coming on today and sharing us your experiences and going through some of your scenes with us. It's been really enlightening. So yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you very much. I'll be ending the stream shortly. If anybody has any last questions, I'll be going back to my camera, but if you have any last questions for Natasha, hopefully she'll be in the chat and be able to answer them for you. So Thanks very much, and yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
You're welcome. See you next time, I guess.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Cool. Cool. So thanks ever so much, Natasha, for joining us. She was obviously working at the NUEL there, so I've put in the chat her handles, which is at SunkernGG and at the NUEL. So please do go check out her work as well and enjoy the content that they produce. So speaking of the NUEL, we will be playing them on Friday, a League of Legends match between the British esports team and the NUEL team. I'm not sure who's. Well, I know I'm not playing because I'll be producing it, but I'm not sure who's playing from the NUEL side yet, and I think I've got a rough idea of who's playing from the British esports side. I think definitely Dom will be playing, but that will be at 4 p.m. on Friday. Would you like to see any online production BAs at universities, as the closest at the moment are still based very much in traditional film work? I honestly don't know. Is the truthful answer to that, Rob? I'm afraid I don't know. So perhaps somebody else in the chat might be able to answer that for you. Cool. So that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed today's Esports 101 in Production Masterclass. And thanks ever so much to Natasha for joining me. So I'm Elliot. I'm signing out, and I will speak to you all on Friday when we have our show match. Also, just before I go quickly, do tune in next week as well. On Monday at 4, we've got a sim racing takeover, which our game advisor is going to get involved, where we're going to have some mini challenges in Forza, F1, and I can't remember the other game actually. But yeah, we're going to have some great content on Monday at 4 p.m. If you're into any sim races, do come along and check that out. It's going to be great fun. So once again, thank you all. Bye-bye.